I come to this decision as a mother. I have 5 children, and there was a moment right after January 6th when my husband and I were having dinner with our 2 youngest, our 2 sons, and I looked across the table at my young sons, and I thought to myself, you know, in the aftermath of the attack on the Capitol, are they going to grow up in a country where we don't have to worry about the peaceful transfer of power? Are they going to grow up in a country where that is guaranteed? And I believe that every one of us in this election has a duty and an obligation to do what we know is right for the country, and that's to support Vice President Harris. So I'm very honored to be here and to do that.
Former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney yesterday in Pennsylvania explaining part of her reasoning for supporting Vice President Kamala Harris. The pair made stops in 3 crucial swing states, bringing a bipartisan message to voters.
You know, yeah, I mean, that's something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and at this point, it is about the next generation and what's the world they're going to grow up in. This election could make that decision for them. Yeah, they're a part of it.
Really could. And Willie, that scene that we just saw, it's remarkable. It's history coming to life. And for me as a conservative, it's the conservative text that has been on my desktop as a young lawyer, it was on my desktop as a member of Congress, my desktop still, Mika will tell you, in offices, The Conservative Mind, where Russell Kirk sums it up neatly, that we're not to be a party of ideology. We are to be a party that upholds the Constitution and upholds conventions, and we are the protectors of institutions. And the line that it's really kind of, for me, somebody who's read this his entire life but have really never seen it have to come into play, Russell Kirk concludes The Conservative Mind's intro, the last introduction that he wrote in 1986, 7th edition, where he said, sometimes we conservatives have to decide whether we are going to attach ourselves to the party of permanence or the party of progress. And our decision is based upon the facts that are before us. And that is what real conservatives do. They look at the world as it is, not through some hyper ideological lens, and they decide what protects the country, what protects the Constitution, what protects customs and conventions the best.
Freedom.
And it's not a perfect choice all the time, but that's a decision real conservatives make. And that's what Liz Cheney's doing. Real conservatives love their country and want it to continue and want the Constitution to endure.
First of all, it is a striking visual, isn't it, to see Vice President Harris and Congresswoman Liz Cheney on a stage together, knowing that Harris has Cheney's support, has Dick Cheney's support, given the history of the Cheney family and the Republican Party, the way Democrats have felt about them historically. That is quite an image. But Liz Cheney, you're right, Joe, is making the case to those Nikki Haley Republicans, to those Mitt Romney Republicans, those John McCain Republicans, George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, Reagan Republicans, and reminding them this is who we are and this is who we've been. We defend the Constitution. We push back against aggressors like Russia. And we want legal immigration in this country. It's an important part of who we are, as Ronald Reagan said in his farewell speech as he left the White House. So she's saying effectively, I haven't changed. All the people around me in this Republican Party, or at least in the MAGA movement, they are the ones who've changed. They are the ones who are following an autocrat down this path. And she said, you don't have to do this. Here is the way. She said even, you know, you can go to the quiet of that ballot booth and vote your conscience, right, and nobody ever has to know what you did. If it's uncomfortable at your kitchen table in your community to vote for Kamala Harris or to not vote for Donald Trump, no one has to know. Go in the box and vote your conscience. That was her message in this barnstorming tour yesterday with Kamala Harris.
You know, Willie, you were working yesterday elsewhere. So we didn't get a chance to talk about all the things that happened, but to attach a line from what Liz Cheney said to what we're saying about conservatives wanting to uphold the Constitution and Madisonian democracy over the weekend. And I'm curious what your reaction was to Donald Trump repeatedly saying that he was going to go after his political opponents, that they were the enemy within, that Nancy Pelosi was the enemy within, that Schiff was the enemy within, that CBS News should be shut down, that all of these anti-democratic, all of these pro-autocratic lines that Donald Trump is putting in all of his interviews and seemingly all of his speeches. And again, what's jarring to me is he's been pushed back on by Sean Hannity, but he doubled down. He's been pushed back on by Laura Ingraham, but he's doubled down. He was pushed back with Howie Kurtz. He's doubled down. He was pushed back with Harris Faulkner, and he's doubled down. He is laying the precedent. Why else would somebody make statements that were against their interest, which is, I'm going to be an autocrat. I am going to call, my opponent's enemy combatants the enemy within and go after them, which he keeps promising to doing, even as conservative, pro-Trump Fox News hosts keep saying, but you don't really mean that to you. And he says, yes, I do. What does that mean for Americans?
Yeah, that's that common interview we've seen on Fox News where the interviewer tries to coach Donald Trump to the right answer and he refuses. My reaction is, how many times does he have to say these things before people start to believe him? These are not one-offs. Right. These are not slips of the tongue. This is his campaign narrative, that he is going to seize power and do what he wants with it. And believe me, all the people who are there now, who provide some kind of a bumper or a guardrail against his autocratic tendencies are going to be long gone, and they'll be installed because they'll go along with what he says. The Arnold Palmer comments got a lot of attention over the weekend. They were strange and amusing in some respects, some projection there, obviously. But what was more serious was what you said, Joe, which is the repeated, again, not one-offs, repeated insistence about what he's going to do with his power should he get it back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he keeps making that promise. And Mika, it's in making that promise, he's laying a precedent. And as Bill Maher said this weekend, he said, it's not Trump derangement syndrome to quote Donald Trump, because that's what people say. They go, oh, you've got Trump derangement syndrome because you're saying these crazy things. No, all we're doing is quoting what Donald Trump keeps saying, even when Fox News hosts keep trying to push him off of it. And that's a promise. And it's also it's almost his closing campaign statement.
Right. It's also a playbook to have Fox News back him up, avoid it, whatever, say he didn't mean it, but to say these things that are literal and dangerous and true. And he's carried out similar threats before, we've seen it, but also, as you mentioned, Willie, to sort of pepper them with crazy talk about genitalia and other things that distract people. Perhaps they'll focus on it, or focusing on his swaying and sitting there for 39. I mean, that's disturbing. Not as disturbing as saying you'll use the military to go after your political rivals. As we get to some new polls from AP and NORC, just one final point about Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney and seeing them up on stage together, talking about democracy and talking about the dangers of a second Trump administration. I just found it striking as well to see two women of wisdom and experience from two completely different backgrounds and two completely different points of view being the example, holding up the pillars of freedom together. It was really impressive, and I hope young women everywhere and everyone everywhere takes a look at what they are doing right now in this moment where what is needed is strength to stand up and speak out and not to cower.
Real strength.
Along with, exactly.
Real strength, real compassion, and a real love of our Constitution.